Today we're going to talk about rejection after herpes diagnosis, and I'll give you 3 reasons why it happens. All right, let's talk a little bit about rejection, especially rejection after herpes diagnosis. All right, so let's face it, rejection hurts, no matter what it is, whether you are in the 6th grade and you didn't get invited to that sleepover, whether you didn't get into the university of your choice, whether, you didn't, a friend didn't invite you to play Red Rover, whatever it is. It could even be applying for a job. That rejection hurts, no matter what. It doesn't feel good. It's part of our human anatomy, right? Like, I didn't get invited. How did that happen, right? Well, then let's talk a little bit about dating. I don't know about you, but I had my heart broken 3 times before I was 28 years old. When I was 28, I got genital herpes. So my heartbreak had nothing to do, my rejection, being dumped, being whatever, had nothing to do with herpes. And that's a really important part. Herpes, a lot of the times, really has nothing to do with the rejection. So I want to talk about 3 reasons why rejection happens, right? One is one is our confidence when we're disclosing. So that's number 1. Number 2 is the person just isn't really educated in herpes. And number 3, the person just isn't that into you. So let's talk a little bit about confidence and things like that. So if we're in a negative spot, I like to call it the Eeyore phase. When we're first diagnosed, we feel like we're in that Eeyore of like the rain clouds over you, there's no sunshine, life is over, that really, really hard, tender phase. If we're in that phase and we haven't worked through our confidence and gained our confidence, then when we go off out into the dating world, we're gonna be very like, oh gosh, will you date me? We're giving off what we're gonna get back. So if we give off this lack of confidence and I'm not worthy to date you, we're gonna get, well, then you're not worthy to date me, why would I date you, right? Number 2 was if the person's not educated with herpes, right? So when we're talking about educated with herpes, first of all, Google is like the worst thing ever. Don't go to Google. Like, turning to Google is the scariest thing. Like, I don't want to look at Google. I'm like terrified of the pictures of herpes on Google, right? So a lot of times if people are not educated in it, they hear herpes or STI, they freak out. I've talked to people that are like, well, I don't want to die if I get herpes. And I'm like, well, you're not going to die herpes. You probably already have herpes. You probably get cold sores, So a lot of times people won't associate with maybe some of the information or statistics. I'd recommend talking about statistics. 2 out of 3 people have HSV-1, 1 out of 6 have HSV-2. Definitely give them information on it. You're more likely to find somebody with herpes than without herpes, actually. So these are some really great tips. But yeah, if the person's not educated with it, then they are probably gonna freak out and go into a little ball. Now, the 3rd reason why someone is just like, I'm not gonna date you because you have herpes, is they're not into you. And I don't know about if you've ever read that book. I read the book, like, he's just not that into you. Like I said, my heart was broken 3 times before I was diagnosed with herpes. They just weren't into me, whatever it was. Maybe I'm a brunette, they wanted a blonde. I don't know what it was, but they just weren't into me. I can tell you, I've not dated guys because I didn't like their fingernails, or I didn't like the way they treated the waitress, or I didn't like, like the way their car smelled, or like, one guy I didn't date because he was into extreme mountain bike, like backpacking through the blizzards. I was like, that's not me. I'm never gonna wanna do that with you, right? So and he was a great guy, really fun guy, right? So my point is we break up with people or don't date people if we're just not that into them. So if somebody gives you a T-ball type of situation, like, oh, I have herpes, then they're gonna be like, yep, I'm out. Just like I've broken up with guys, I'm like, yeah, I'm moving across country for school. Like, do you still want to stay together? And you're like, yeah, it's the long distance. They just gave me a reason to break up. So again, herpes a lot of times can be an easy T-ball for people that are just not that into you. As much as that hurts, herpes had nothing to do with it. So let's recap. It's your confidence when disclosing. It is the education portion of disclosing. And if it still is like, ugh, they're just not that into you, and that's okay. I actually did an emergency call with a guy, and he said he was famous. I don't know who he was. He didn't tell me his name. And he's like, Alexandra, I just want to sleep with everybody. And I'm like, well, you physically can't sleep with everybody. But he's like, I want to. And I'm like, yeah, but you can't. So again, sometimes having this way of filtering out people is kind of beneficial. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about disclosing. I understand it's a little bit scary. How do I do it? How do I not do it? How do I disclose with confidence? I've created a Tell Your Partner toolkit. It has 14 different videos. I have things about how to tell past partners, how to tell a one-night stand or a very casual relationship. And I have things on how to tell like a future long-term relationship. All three are very different conversations, a little bit different energy going into it, and different preparation. So I have a toolkit. I have it linked for you. It is great. You can get through it in one night and be disclosing, like tonight or even tomorrow. Yeah, so go on ahead and check that out. Like I said, I'd love to hear your disclosure stories. I'd love to hear even like rejection stories that have nothing to do with herpes. Let me know below. I would love to hear about that. Also, let me know what other content I can create. I'm here for you. I'm creating content and I want it to be beneficial and educational. All right, I will see you soon in the next video. I appreciate you and have a great day. Bye.